Hi, my name is Dr. Rebecca Foster, and I'm the Director of Secondary Transition at the DC Special Education Cooperative. The focus of our PDs are to bring you some new information and to help coach you through refining your process in a way that fits with your school's mission. Today, we will give a broad overview of secondary transition. By the end of today, you will understand the consequences of poor transition planning, learn the legal requirements of transition, and identify the 10 parts of a transition plan. In order to do this, we will look at current data, the legal and theoretical background, and an overview of transition plan components. Let's begin by looking at some of the data on what happens with poor transition planning. This graph compares individuals with disabilities to their non-disabled peers in terms of post-secondary education. Here you see young adults with disabilities are more likely than the same aged young adults in the general population to have attended a 2-year college or a post-secondary vocational school at some point since leaving high school. In contrast, young adults in the general population were more likely to have attended a 4-year college. While high school programs prepare students for post-secondary education, students with disabilities can encounter a variety of challenges in the transition from high school to post-secondary. This graph builds upon the previous by showing graduation from post-secondary education. As you see, individuals with disabilities are less likely to graduate from post-secondary education. Without proper education and training, individuals with disabilities are less likely to be employed. This graph compares the employment rate of individuals with disabilities to their non-disabled peers in the United States and in DC. Our last graph looks at the poverty rates of individuals with disabilities. As we know, employment affects poverty. Individuals with disabilities are more likely to live in poverty. In the United States, individuals with disabilities live in poverty at a rate of 21.2% compared to their non-disabled peers who live in poverty at a rate of 13.8%, leaving a gap of 7.4. But in DC, individuals with disabilities live in poverty at a rate of 40%, but their non-disabled peers stayed about the same at a rate of 13%. This gap is 27% in DC. So what? Transition planning affects this. Poor transition planning directly impacts unemployment or underemployment, dependent living arrangements, social isolation, limited recreational and leisure planning, dependence on government agencies and services. As a result, IDEA in 2004 was reauthorized and the transition requirements changed. Students, family members, schools, and adult agencies must focus on what will happen to the students once he or she graduates from high school. The federal requirement is still written as age 16, but DC is moving towards implementing this by the student's 14th birthday. Measurable post-secondary goals are from a results-oriented perspective and require schools to be held accountable for providing an educational program that facilitates the student's movement out of high school, including both academically and functionally. Let's look at what transition services are. Transition services means a coordinated set of activities for a child with a disability that is designed to be a results-oriented process focused on improving the academic and functional achievement of the child to facilitate movement from the schools to post-school activities. Post-school activities may include post-secondary education, integrated employment, adult services, independent living, or community participation. Transition services are based on the individual child's needs, taking into account the child's strengths, preferences, and interests. And it includes instruction, related services, community experiences, the development of employment and other post-school adult living objectives, and, if appropriate, daily living skills. A big change for students and families in this process is when services are no longer housed at the school. While in K through 12, schools must identify, evaluate, and provide services to children with disabilities as covered under IDEA. These services are often all provided at the school, and students are entitled to them. But after high school, individuals are no longer covered under IDEA, and academics, technology, independent living, job training, transportation are no longer under one entity. Students must now apply for separate services and be found eligible for services from different adult agencies. The transition plan assists with connecting students to the adult agencies and services that they need to be successful after high school. We're going to look at 10 parts to the transition plan. What you'll see is under each part, there is a reference to where it is found in the law. I did not explain the law nor write the law, but knowing that you could look it up with the reference listed. So the first step, the student is invited and involved. If the purpose of the IEP meeting is to consider post-secondary goals and services, the student must be invited to participate. If the student does not attend, the LEA must take other steps to ensure that the student's interests and preferences are considered. Student involvement provides opportunities for the student to make decisions, encourages school completion, and student independence. When a student attends, the student should be able to talk about their career educational goals, accommodations, strengths, weaknesses, and make decisions about their future. Schools should make sure to document due diligence in inviting the student. Assessments serve as the foundation of all the transition plan. It helps us define the goals and services to include in the transition plan. Assessments should be done every 10 months and used to make decisions. There are both post-secondary goals and measurable annual goals. Post-secondary goals describe what the student wants to do after high school. Annual goals describe what the student will do within the IEP year to make progress on their post-secondary goal. More information on writing compliant goals is given in different webinars, and I'll provide you with my email at the end, so please reach out if you need more assistance in that. Transition services. Services in the transition plan look at what is the school or adult agency going to do to specifically help the student develop the skills and knowledge necessary for goal attainment. A course of study. Course of study is a multi-year description of the coursework that is aligned with academic requirements for a high school diploma or a certificate of completion. It is a plan to ensure the student will gain required knowledge and skills for success. Graduation planning. All students need to be provided with the opportunity to earn a high school diploma. If the IEP team determines it is not appropriate, then the course of study must assist the student in achieving an alternative to a high school diploma. Schools must follow procedures when the decision is made for a student to complete a certificate versus a diploma. Participating agencies. Participating agencies are invited when the services to assist the student in meeting the goal are likely to be provided or paid for by someone other than the school. LEAs must follow correct procedures for invitation. The LEA has a responsibility to invite an agency, but does not have the authority to require the agency's attendance. Some examples of agencies that may be include Developmental Disabilities Association, DDA, Rehabilitation Services Administration, RSA, Housing Authority, Child and Family Services, Social Security Association, or Department of Behavioral Health. There are other agencies that may be invited, and those are just to list some. The transfer of rights. Prior to age 17, a notice must be provided to the student and the parent that their educational rights will transfer. At 18, an LEA must provide notice of transfer of rights to the student and parent as a part of the procedural safeguards. Discontinuation of services. prior to completing the last semester of school, an LEA must provide prior written notice of the discontinuation of services at school year end. And the last part of the transition process is the summary of performance. The summary of performance is a comprehensive student summary that provides information to possible post-secondary service providers, which includes academic achievement, cognitive and functional performance, recommendations. An IEP or a summary of performance is not sufficient documentation of a disability. It does not prove eligibility in adult services. A student should also have a current psychological or neuropsychological in order to establish eligibility with most DC adult services. If you have any questions or want more information, please feel free to contact me at rfoster@specialedcoop.org.